So welcome to Nurse Digest for 2021, the title Getting Digital Health Ready. My name is Margaret Dempsey and today I'm joined by Nicola Graham, a clinical educator from the Australian Digital Health Agency, and also I'm delighted to welcome Marianne Schlosser. Marianne works as a primary healthcare nurse in a general practice in the heart of Melbourne, and she's worked in primary care for 8 years. So welcome to both presenters. APNA and the Australian Digital Health Agency wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands across which we meet and pay respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. A reminder also that all registrants will receive a link to today's recorded session via email and it will be uploaded to APNA's website in the coming days. So I'll now pass you over to Nikki and Marianne.
Thanks so much, Marg, and thank you all for having me again. So today we're going to go through, so what do you need to do to actually be digital health ready? So we'll go through registering with My Health Record and the Nash Certificate, and also to talk about the prescription delivery service, and that's to support transfer of prescriptions and also electronic prescriptions, how to upload pathology requests, and also a little bit about secure messaging services. So first, let's just talk about My Health Record. So what is My Health Record? With almost all of Australian population now with a My Health Record, providers will have access to a wide range of health information that you may not have had previously had access to. So My Health Record is really a summary of your patient's key health information. Now, why is it so great to have a My Health Record? It's because it's part of a national system. And that means that no matter where the person travels, so if you've got holidayers, it doesn't matter if they come to see you, as long as you're a registered healthcare provider with the My Health Record system, because it's part of a national system, you'll be able to access that information. Now, a key element of the My Health Record is that it's personally controlled. So what does that mean? It means that a person has a say as to whether they have a My Health Record, what is in it, who can access it. So if your practice is open after hours, for example, and you've got a patient that's come in, they may have just been discharged from the hospital, or they might be a new patient to your practice, and you need to find information. So maybe you're looking for a discharge summary, or you need some details about medications. You will be able to access this information regardless of the hour, because it is available 24/7. So what it does is it gives you access to that key health information when it is needed most, and we know that is at the point of care. Now, importantly, the records are private and they are protected via legislation, and now primarily that's the My Health Record Act. It is secure and it's done through multiple levels of international best practice in IT security. Now, we have a cybersecurity centre and they monitor, they maintain, and they also do improvements to the system 24/7. So it's always being monitored. So this is the Nash Certificate. Now you need this in order to be registered for the My Health Record system. So this is one of the key requirements to be digitally enabled for My Health Record. The Nash Certificate's used to securely share and access information. So it allows connection to the HI service. So that's the Health Identifier service. Now what it does is it allows you to validate an IHI. Now IHI is an individual healthcare identifier. A HPII, which is what a healthcare provider has, it's their number, and it also allows a connection to the HPIO. Now, the HPIO is the registered organisation. Now, the Nash certificate is managed or requested, downloaded by what we call an organisation maintenance officer. So your organisation needs to have an OMO, we call them. And then they go through the health professionals online service, which you probably have all heard is HPOS. So that's basically how you would get the Nash certificate ordered. Now, organisations within softwares, it just depends. They can use the Nash, but sometimes they also use the Medicare site certificates, which you've probably all heard of. The Medicare site certificates are going to be not used from March 2022. So you will need the Nash in order to have that connection. Now, importantly, this Nash certificate is only valid for 2 years, and that's to maintain privacy of the system, and that's why it expires every 2 years. So it's something really to keep an eye on. Now, of course, if you are not registered for the My Health Record system, we've got some fantastic resources that you can see on your screen, and this will just help you step through what's required. So there's a step-by-step guide. AAPM have done a practice manager registration guide, and we've also got a readiness checklist, and it's really easy. Then you can just go through, check off what you need. So that will get you set up for My Health Record. Now, the next is registering for a prescription delivery service. So once you've got your Nash and you're registered with the My Health Record system, then you can register with a prescription delivery service. Now, the prescription delivery service allows prescribed medications and also dispensed medications to be sent to the patient's My Health Record. Now, sharing prescription information, it's a secure exchange of prescription data, and it goes between the prescribing system and the dispensing system. So greater use of these electronic prescribing processes, it really improves accuracy and safety of prescribing. So what happens is when you generate that prescription, an encrypted electronic message is sent and stored in this prescription delivery service. Now that's either ERX or MediSecure. They're the only two available in Australia. So what happens then is when the patient presents a paper prescription to the pharmacist and it has that barcode on it, the barcode is scanned and that downloads that encrypted prescription information into the pharmacy's detail where it's decrypted by that dispensing system. So that's how you do electronic transfer of prescription, but you do need to register for the prescription delivery service. Now, this is a checklist, again, to help you. So if you are not currently set up for electronic prescriptions, this is a handy checklist that will give you just the details of what you actually need to do. And there are a few steps that are needed to be put in place. But importantly, not only does electronic transfer of prescription allow for prescribed medicines to go to the patient's My Health Record, it is also a core requirement for electronic prescriptions. So you must have that in place in order to go through and participate in electronic prescriptions. So let's now have a little look at electronic prescriptions. So what is electronic prescriptions? It is an option for prescribers and their patients to use an electronic prescription as an alternative to the paper prescription. Now, previously, only a paper prescription signed by the prescriber, it was the legal form in which a patient could get a medication. So they had to have that paper prescription. Legislation's now in place to recognise an electronic prescription as a legal alternative to paper. So what that means is patients and prescribers will be able to choose between a paper or an electronic prescription. Importantly, you cannot have both. So they can't have that original paper prescription and also an electronic prescription. They have one or the other. So it's really important on that note to note that it's not mandatory. So if a patient says they do not want to have an electronic prescription, they certainly don't have to. They can have the paper version. Now, again, if you want to participate, there's a few things you need to do. Now, these, we've got a couple of pages of this readiness checklist. So basically, you need to ensure your organisation has a HPIO. Now, we went through that at the beginning, and that's registering for your Nash. But again, on this checklist, there's some more information. And so you also need to ensure that your pharmacy or your practice is connected to the prescription delivery service, and that's such as ERX or MediSecure. And you need to install any upgrades to your software. So that's something really important to do as well. Stay up to date with your relevant state and territory legislation. It's always important no matter where you are for those. And also discuss your workflow suitable for your organisation to keep your staff informed. Now, Marianne, I'm going to ask you here, how did you go about implementing electronic prescriptions? So you've already done this in practice. Could you share with us how you went about that?
Yeah, it became pretty necessary when Melbourne went into lockdown, and we were only doing telehealth, and a lot of people were pretty concerned to even go out of their house, even though they were allowed to. So we set about getting it all set up. The practice manager did all that that stuff that you were talking about with the HPIO and everything, and the Nash certificate. But I was there supporting and really pushing it so that we could get it off the ground, because a lot of people were a bit concerned about it. We've got over 20 GPs in our practice, ranging from young guys to older people. And so we really wanted everyone to get on board. And so what I did was, first of all, I did some training. I did some training with the digital health, some of the online training stuff, and our best practice is our software. They also had some training, so I really got my head around what it was. And then, we got it all set up, made sure that all our local pharmacies were well and truly, ready to go, because everyone really was, knew that it was going to be pretty important. And then we rolled it out. We started with a couple of the doctors, and they were like, "Oh, that's really easy," and because they went from their process prior to it was, they would talk to the patient. They would, say, "All right, I'm going to fax it to the pharmacy." They would walk out to the fax machine. There'd be a whole lot of them would get faxed off. Then we'd have to call the pharmacy, because some of the pharmacies the faxes weren't going through. Then we'd have to call the patient again, say, yes, it's gone through. And then that was the process prior. Once we got it in place, the process was, okay, I'm on the phone to you, or I'm on video to you. Have you got it now? And the patient was like, yes, I have. And it was just instantaneous. All the doctors were so happy with how easy it was. Once I took them through it, they were really, they thought it was going to be really difficult, but it was actually much easier than sending a fax. So, because they knew how to use the software, so, they already knew how to prescribe, and it was only one extra button they had to push. So, yeah.
It's fantastic. So it really streamlined the services, didn't it?
Absolutely.
And I guess a takeaway from what you've just said for people is it's really important to talk to your patients about electronic prescriptions, and to just check when that token gets sent through. And obviously your practice manager set it all up for you. So being registered with the prescription delivery service was important as well. And obviously you also mentioned there about checking with your local pharmacy. So I guess that's really important for anyone that's listening, that if you're just starting to do electronic prescriptions, to make sure that your local pharmacies are able to dispense the token as well. Thanks so much, Marianne. That was great. All right, so let's now talk about pathology requests, because it's another step in getting digital health ready. So it's one of the things that you can do is share your pathology. Now, on our website, you'll be able to find information on digital health, diagnostic imaging and pathology providers that currently have the ability to upload pathology and the imaging reports to My Health Record. Now, patients then can take a request form to any of these highlighted organisations, and they're able to share the report with the My Health Record system. So that's important. Now, it's important to also note that pathology providers with specific requirements, they're Australian Clinic Labs and Sonic Healthcare Labs. Now, what happens with those is they require the requesting practice to be activated to enable that e-requesting or e-ordering. So having specific requirements really means that the requesting practice has to be activated, and to be enabled to electronic requesting, the practice needs to contact their pathology lab directly to be enabled. So I recently spoke to someone who was also in Melbourne, who just basically contacted their pathology provider, and they helped them through everything to get set up. And then what that means then is they can upload the patient's pathology results to the patient's My Health Record. Now, of course, the practice needs to be registered for the My Health Record and using a recent version of their software, and that's still the same for electronic prescriptions as well. So now let's go now to the next part, which is secure messaging. So we've spoken quite a lot about, we've got electronic prescriptions, we've got My Health Record, we've got pathology, and they're all securely encrypted information, so that receiving from one end to the other is secure and done, and you can be sure it works well, and they can get the right information at the end of the time. So what about sending information as well? So most of you who already send all those e-orders, you're already using a type of encrypted data sent seamlessly. You do that probably without even thinking when you do that now. Secure messaging really is data that's encrypted on one side. It remains encrypted throughout each stage of the transmission process until it's decrypted by the recipient, so whoever's going to be receiving that on the other side. So that's exactly what secure messaging does. It provides communication between health and care providers, and it's part of that end-to-end clinical workflow. So what it is, it's reliable, it's a secure provider-to-provider communication, and it's a key component of a digitally enabled, integrated and coordinated care across our Australian health sector. So this one here is just how secure messaging in the information is managed. So it's secure in the transit between that prevents the interception. So it can't be intercepted at any time through the process. Now, this improves the privacy of the patient information. But to set up for secure messaging, you need to choose an organisation software installation and install them with it. Again, you need the Nash Certificate, but you'll already have that because we're setting up already for My Health Record and for the electronic prescriptions. And then you'll just need to educate your providers and then start using secure messaging system. And I guess Marianne spoke before about making sure that the providers knew and understood how to use their electronic prescriptions. So secure messaging is no different. You just need to make sure that they understand how to use that functionality. So that brings us now to our question and answers. Marg, I might throw to you to see if we've got any questions so far.
Hello, I'm just unmuting myself, of course. Please feel free to put any of your questions into the chat section and the Q&A section on at the bottom of your screen. We don't have any coming through at the moment. I also think it's just, while we're waiting for any questions, it's good to point out that a lot of this information, if there's a lot of nurses watching, you might be looking at, oh, I haven't got time for this, or how am I going to do all this? You know, this is actually a team approach. Get on board with, you know, the practice manager will actually perhaps understand a lot more of the language we've been talking about today. So just have those conversations. But also, as Marianne said, there were areas that, you know, the practice manager at her practice had been organising the Nash Certificate and getting digital health ready, but there were things that Marianne could do as a nurse, learn some of the practicalities herself, and then be able to show the other clinicians within the practice how easy that it is and how more streamlined it actually makes your day-to-day routine, which is really what we hope the digital technologies are doing. It's meant to be making life a lot easier. So I do urge you to get on board with your team and work through these processes together. And also remember that there are a lot of resource checklists that are available to help you.
That's exactly right. And Marg, on that, I'd like to ask Marianne actually if, so you spoke about the streamlining of processes for electronic prescriptions and how it really did help your providers. Do you have an example of how well My Health Record has helped as well? You know, we talk about trying to find information, and I spoke to a GP last night and he said, you know, trying to find information, yes, he could absolutely eventually get to it, but it would take a long time to phone different people to find maybe a discharge summary or some health information. How have you found using My Health Record has helped streamline your processes similar to electronic prescriptions?
With the My Health Record, well, we've recently found that it's so much easier to find out whether people with GPMPs, how many of their team care arrangements they've had for the year, because it's really easy. Actually, I've only just recently discovered that. So it's actually really handy to be able to, instead of, we used to have to ring up Medicare and then they would be on the phone forever. And but yeah, so it's really easy to just look on the overview, the medication overview. So, and you can see how many, so that's fantastic. It's just really easy to do. So yeah, excited
It's most
about that one.
life-changing. Yeah.
Yes.
Limits rejections, and also then obviously the patient can then get the care they need. And I guess when I used to call Medicare services to find out, they would never tell you the date. So that was the thing I loved about the My Health Record, is in the Medicare data, it tells you the date. So you've really got a really good idea of eligibility.
Yeah,
Nikki, I do have a question.
Yep.
Someone's asking, does the patient need to be using My Health Record, or to have their My Health Record, to use the prescription, pathology and secure messaging components that you've talked about?
You do not need to be registered with the My Health Record to have an electronic prescription. So the token, you don't need to be registered with the My Health Record system at all. With electronic transfer of prescription, so that prints the barcode on the script, you can still have that. You can still get the prescription done, but the information about that prescription doesn't get sent to My Health Record, because obviously if you don't want to have My Health Record or you don't have it, then it wouldn't go there. And it's the same for for e-ordering of pathology. The information is actually stored at the pathology level. So the pathology organisation stores the detail of that request, and then they download it. If you're registered with My Health Record, it does also go to the My Health Record, but you do not need to be registered with My Health Record at all. And I guess importantly, with the pathology, if you have a My Health Record and the pathology information does go there, for your nurses out there, if you're concerned about your patients, it's 7 days before the patient is actually able to see that information on their own My Health Record, and it's 7 working days too. I hope that answers that question in a very long way.
I've got a couple of others then, or a comment, I think, really. My Health Record is frustrating if there is nothing in there from hospitals, etc. And I know that we have that as an issue.
Oh, look, I'm really, really pleased you've said that, because even though we've had My Health Record for some time now, if the patient's My Health Record has never been accessed before, when you first go in there won't be any information. You have to either refresh your screen or go back out and go back in again. And remember at the beginning of the session, I mentioned that it's personally controlled. So that means that your patients can choose what goes into their record, who can see their information. They can restrict access to just certain documents. So it's really worthwhile having that conversation with your patient and saying, have you restricted access to any of the information in your My Health Record? And that way you know what you're looking for. And importantly, remember that once you're over the age of 14, immunisation information or the Medicare data is not visible to you.
Thanks, Nikki. Perfectly well answered. Another question here. I'm thinking it might relate to the secure messaging section, but it says, so SMS is just a message, question, like recall of non-urgent patients for results, etc., or is it something else?
Okay, so SMS, in my understanding, is like a text message on your phone.
Service.
Yeah, so that's for your phone and you'll receive an SMS. And with electronic prescriptions, that SMS is actually encrypted because it has it's a code. It doesn't give any details. And we believe in one of the digests coming up soon, we'll be going into a great detail about how that actually works, and we'll be talking about what that token looks like and the security and the encryption behind that. Secure messaging is about sending information securely. So if you were going to send a referral letter from your practice to a specialist, it encrypts that data so it can't be intercepted. And at the other end, the information's downloaded and understood by that clinical software, and it puts the information in there. Does that sort of answer that question enough?
I think it does. Thank you
Perfect.
for that. There's no more current questions coming through, and I'm looking at we're working closer to time.
Okay.
You may want to show the next slide with some information about how to find out further information.
All right. So if you need any further additional information about what I've spoken about today, because when you're looking at getting digitally ready, you do need to follow a few of those steps. And I know that you're going to be sent a copy of the slides, and there are some important links in there to help you get ready for digitally ready for your practices. And obviously your practice managers will support you in that. Now, we have lots of webinars on our website, and we've got YouTube, we've got online e-learning modules that Marianne mentioned that she got her practice staff, or the practitioners, to do, which really did help cement some of that understanding. We've got simulators and demonstrations, summary sheets, and you can also request a presentation from the Digital Health Agency. So myself and my colleague Tram, for example. And you can also follow us to get some latest agency announcements via LinkedIn, and we've got Facebook and Twitter.
Thanks, Nikki. Marianne, is there any other just sort of final comment that you'd like to make regarding how getting your practice getting digital health ready?
I'd just like to encourage everyone, like even people who don't feel across technology, it just makes things easier. And I was incredibly surprised at all the people who don't normally use the tech, the technology available, but they actually, they've taken to it like a duck to water, and don't be, worried, because if they can prescribe, they can e-prescribe.
I think it's just about understanding the process, isn't it? And knowing that clicking the button here and doing that, and this is how it works, and it's easy. Maybe they get a bit bogged down thinking you need to know all the intricacies at the back end. But having a bit of a broad understanding of it will make clinical practice a lot easier and more streamlined.
And there's lots of support out there, isn't there, Marianne? Like you said, you've tapped into some support too. So you're not on your own, and it is easy, but it's still something new, and so it's something to get used to.
And I think nurses are always in a position where we can be across things, and we can be helpful, to everyone in the practice, because, even though we don't prescribe ourselves, if we have an understanding of it, if someone can just talk to you about it, usually they work it out themselves, but just, having someone to talk to can be, and the nurses are often there that we, this button isn't working, and you just say, no, that's because you've got your screen off or something, and they, even if the nurses don't feel that competent themselves to prescribe, obviously we can't, then it's something that you can all work out together. There is a lot of support out there.
It's a practice makes perfect situation, isn't it?
It is. And the nurses are the linchpin, aren't they, really? Holding everything together.
Always.
The go-to.
Yep.
Most definitely. So thank you very much for joining us today on our first Nurse Digest for this year. And thank you to our presenters, Nicola and Marianne. So please join us at next month's Nurse Digest. We will explore how you can help your patients to understand electronic prescriptions. There'll just be a poll appearing on your screen now that we'd appreciate if you could quickly respond to. And also, please take a little bit of time to complete the evaluation at the end of this session, and that helps us know if we're hitting the mark with the education that you require. So thank you very much. See you next time. Bye.